Okay, great. Yay!
Yay.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Today I am joined by Amelia. She's an alumni of Purdue University, graduating in spring of 2024 in applied physics with a minor in astronomy. During her time at Purdue University, she was involved in leadership with several clubs, vice president of SPS, vice president of the Astronomy Club, and a member of the executive board for GMiP. She also published a paper in that time titled A Next Generation Liquid Xenon Observatory for Dark Matter and Neutrino Physics. She is now pursuing a PhD at IU, following her passion for experimental research in neutrino physics. Amelia has not only been an active advocate and role model for gender minorities in physics, but for all undergraduate students in physics. She's been working and creating tools in a summer program to teach students the vital skills needed for physics research. On behalf of GMiP, thank you so much for your many years of service. And thank you so much for joining me today. It truly is an honor and a privilege.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here. I am excited to talk about all things physics and specifically gender minorities in physics.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, so the last time the two of us chatted, which was quite a while ago
I
now,
know, it's been too long.
you were preparing for grad school, and I know that large transitions such as that can make one really reflect on the journey that it took them to be there.
Yeah.
So like some of these moments are sentimental, some are a little bit cringe, like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? What moments have you been reflecting on recently, and would you make any choices differently than what you made with, like the knowledge you have now?
Um, I think a lot of it comes down to time management. I'd been thinking about how I approach some of my leadership duties and whether or not I kind of spread myself thin. I did a lot while I was at Purdue, but I kind of think about, did I do them at the quality I would have liked to, given I was so busy all the time? And if I had cut my priorities down a little bit, would I have been able to do more in one place or another? Being in a position of leadership, I was told a lot that I'm doing great things and I'm doing well and I'm making an impact, but I was also told sometimes like, there's some things that are missing here. And I think about how I could have addressed some things or provided more things for people who wanted those things provided, more events, more connections, more networking opportunities that I just wasn't able to because I'm just one person. How could I have maybe motivated the people around me that also had responsibilities in those positions? Not that they didn't get their work done or do those things, but how could I have done more to help them?
You're such a giving person. That was a beautiful answer. Um,
Thanks.
and that ties into my next question a little bit. So I know that our department specifically, we sit at a historically low number of women and gender
Mhm.
minorities. So did you experience any sense of imposter syndrome during
Oh
that
yeah,
time?
all the time. And professors experience imposter syndrome, graduate students experience imposter syndrome. It never goes away. And, you know, I remember very vividly sitting in classes, graduate level classes, and I'm looking around and I'm like, I am the only woman here. At least, yeah. And just kind of feeling like eyes don't necessarily perceive you as equal in that sense, or um, maybe less ambitious or less authoritative than I actually think I am, at least. It's kind of a little bit of a subconscious blow. And yes, you do experience that a lot in environments where there aren't a lot of people that are similar to you. Um, Especially on a gender identity basis, on a sexuality basis, on a race basis. I would say there were a lot of instances in which I did feel very represented. I went to the American Astronomical Society's meeting down in New Orleans uh, in January, I think, and it was very diverse. There was a great split of um, like it was about equal, like the male and female as far as I could tell, and there was a lot of diversity just in identities and organizations there to represent different marginalized communities. So it was great. Astronomy felt a lot better than I think just general physics does sometimes. So, um, but yeah, there's still a lot of work to do, and just, you know, understanding to spread around to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think highlighting that imposter syndrome is something that, we experience is something that's so important. So
Mhm.
thank you for talking on that.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that in your undergraduate experience? I know you talked about you felt represented at some places, but it was probably still tough in some other places.
Yeah, I think I just kind of had to push myself to show up. Um, I had I was fortunate enough to be raised on the idea that there really is nothing. People's perception of me has nothing to do with what I actually do and how I actually behave, and there was really nothing that would stop me if I kept pushing. Of course, some obstacles shouldn't be there. Um, and we shouldn't have to overcome those obstacles, but just showing up, keeping my game face on, and coming to class, answering questions, kind of having an attitude of I know I'm supposed to be here sort of thing. Yeah. Which is hard to develop. It's very hard to develop, and you have to have a lot of like personal capital in yourself, I think, to know that yes, I really do deserve to be here. The things that I do are impactful and important. Um, and it's hard to develop, and it takes a lot of time. But I think once I got there, it started getting a lot easier.
How do you think that from a department standpoint that the physics department or GMiP could better foster that sense that you're talking about of, like I'm here and forcing yourself to go to classes?
Yeah.
How do you think we could better foster or support for gender minorities and other underrepresented groups?
Yeah. I think maybe a good place to start would even just be hosting department events that really encourage the entirety of the department, the entire hierarchy of the department to be there and discuss these things, put into words what imposter syndrome looks like, and what you can do to kind of empower yourself, because the more things go unspoken, the less people think about them, and you just kind of run your day to day, you know, without thinking about these things, especially if you just are unfamiliar with the concept or the notion that yes, there is still a disparity. There's a lot of disparities still in modern day science. Um, open Having an event that maybe just like another panel of some sort, or I think the idea of gathering statistics that GMIP is doing right now to really put numbers to some of these disparities, because we are very number oriented people, that makes me really excited to see what information you can gather and help show people with that. So it's a great idea, and I'm excited to see what your work you guys do.
So you're starting your PhD program at IU.
Yes.
Congratulations
Thank you.
again. That's so exciting.
Yay.
I know that grad school programs can be an extremely difficult choice and decision to
Mhm.
navigate. What compelled you to apply to the programs that you did apply to, and how did you make the right decision? Or how did you make, sorry, not the right decision, but how did you make the right decision for you?
Yeah.
And how was IU the right decision for you?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it was my gosh, it's such a process. Graduate school is such a process to apply to, and specifically recently, it has gotten like extremely more competitive, especially in the field of astronomy. Um, like it doesn't even matter if you're qualified anymore. It just matters if you're lucky at this point.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I decided a long time ago that I wanted to be a graduate student just because I love research so much. I love creating things that help in the research process. I love finding creative solutions to answer questions about our physical reality. Um, technical solutions, things that I can piece together. So
I
I decided
really
I like,
liked those sentences. Those
yeah,
were nice. Those were really
thank you.
nice.
I had to write a lot of graduate applications and put into words what I really liked about science. So that helped me there, kind of craft those sentences.
It was
Uh,
nice.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've known for a while that I like experimental physics. It's just intuitive to me. Um, and I liked interdisciplinary fields where I can uh, take work doing one thing and apply it to understanding something that maybe is not exactly related, you know. Um, so I decided a long time ago that I liked that. And I wanted to stay in academia because I also like education. I like teaching. Um, I like organizing information for people and finding ways to make information more digestible. And that's something that I just enjoy doing. So it was kind of the natural path for me. So I applied to, I think, don't let me lie here. Something in the low 20s number of schools, something
Oh,
like 21.
wow.
Yeah, a lot, because
That's so
I
many.
have really bad anxiety, and I was like, what if I don't get in? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna have to do a gap year or something, which is fine. Gap years are totally cool. I just was like, financially, I need to be making some income, you know? So I applied to um one master's program and a bunch of PhD programs. I got into 5 PhD programs. One of them was abroad in Australia. It was recommended by my graduate advisor. Actually, it was at the University of Sydney. And I was like ready. I was like, this is the one. I'm going to Australia. I'm going to get my PhD in 3 years. They do 3-year PhDs there.
Whoa.
They expect that you come in with a master's, but so I had done the same research at Purdue that I would be doing there. So I had the background. And I was like, this is going to be so cool. It's on scholarship. And then I came and toured at IU, and I realized I might be jumping the gun a little bit here. This might not be the best thing for me as a person and academically. I have a lot of ties in the States. Obviously, it would be such a hard transition to just immediately get out of undergraduate and then go abroad and finish a PhD in 3 years. And that, and I wouldn't be taking any classes during that PhD. So there's a whole gap of knowledge that I'd have a PhD, but I wouldn't have taken any of the graduate level coursework that's typically
Yeah.
associated unless I did that on my own volition on top of the PhD, which was my plan. And it started to dawn on me just how much that would end up being. Um, so I made a lot of connections here at IU. They brought me down and had me tour because I had a deadline with Australia. Um, and I realized, I can just be happy here and take my time and get some good work done without trying to push it into 3 years. And you know, there's plenty of like research here that was very different research than what is Purdue hosts. They we specialize in more nuclear physics kind of things, and experimental physics. And Purdue, there's a lot of quantum information science here too. But yeah, and that's I was very interested in because it ties into astroparticle physics, neutrino physics, anything coming in from space. I'm very interested in cosmic rays. So that's I just kind of said, you know what, it's giving me a lot of anxiety thinking about needing to go abroad so suddenly. I think I can be happy here and do good work here. I'm gonna make that decision for myself. So I just did. And
Yeah.
I really like it here so far.
Yay!
Yay.
I'm really glad that you prioritized yourself in that decision because I
I am
know I've
too.
I've heard from a lot of grad students, especially recently, that they're like, yeah, I'm working 80-hour work weeks and I'm like it feels like you have something to say on that front.
I you know, there's a lot of the grit culture in science. You can't do good science, you can't do rational science if you've run yourself into the ground. I know this firsthand. And a lot of people think they have somebody to impress or something, so they run themselves into the ground. And if you're pushing yourself to the point where you're not excited about the things you're doing anymore, and you're not actually enjoying what you're doing, then maybe it's a time to take a step back and reevaluate. Are you doing this to impress other people, or are you doing this for yourself and for the impact that it's creating? Uh, that's my spiel. Mental health in physics, specifically, and in the sciences, I feel like is very neglected. And that ties
Absolutely.
into a lot of the identity, imposter syndrome stuff too. Yeah.
So shifting gears just a little
Yes.
bit, in terms of physics, was there a role model for you,
Mm.
that helped you choose this field, or do you like remember the moment when it clicked that like physics, that experimental physics is what you want to do?
I think Dr. Raphael Lang in undergraduate, I really admired the work that he did. I was looking at his lab before I even got to Purdue. Like I was looking at what type of research does Purdue have? And his lab stood out and his like persona stood out. He was very confident and very enthusiastic about just the curious things of science. And I think I got a lot of my understanding about experimental physics and physics research from him, and a lot of like understanding of why we're doing this, you know? And I think that really helped. He really helped steer my brain into experimental physics in that sense. Um, And I also really like the computing component of experimental physics as well. I know computing kind of bridges the gap between experimental and theoretical, but I started exploring data science at that time too, and I think that kind of convinced me like I don't want to be a data scientist necessarily, but I want to do data science for physics. Um, and I was like, I really enjoy doing this, so yeah.
Great, fantastic answer. Did you have a role model besides the professor, like maybe in your years prior to that, like when you were in high school, because
Yeah,
you made the decision like in high school to be a physics
right.
major.
I had, yeah, it's a long story dating back to probably like my middle school years. I've always been very like I could do just about anything science wise. I could be a botanist. I thought I was going to be a meteorologist for many, many years. I still am very interested in meteorology. Um, Physics felt like the ultimate science, like the most fundamental science, um, and the most mysterious as well. Like I wasn't going to fully get a full grasp on anything in nature if I didn't understand physics first. And so that concept, especially, that's also a concept that's pushed in pop science a lot. So that kind of drove me towards physics. And then I watched Interstellar, which everybody loves Interstellar. I love Interstellar. Interstellar's great. I was like, space is so cool. And so I was like, how do I be a scientist who studies space? And I got a telescope and I started taking pictures through the telescope and making observations. And it all just kind of unraveled from there. And I think I read a lot of Carl Sagan's work in high school. And I think that also his interdisciplinary approach too, really weaving in like parallels between different scales of the universe, from biology to earth science to even human history, anthropology, sociology. I thought, yeah, physics must be what I need to do because it helps describe a lot of these things that I'm interested in understanding. Um, so yeah, I have some things to say about Carl Sagan's work now. So I in high school I was like, oh my gosh, I love Carl Sagan, and now I'm like, I don't know if that was really like the best move for him to write about. It's a whole thing, but I still think he's great, and yeah, I think yeah. Mm,
Okay, I want to end on one question that
all
is
right.
as old as time for
Okay.
interviews like this. Okay,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who has just started in our department?
Okay. The advice that I'm going to give is that one, you're going to be knocked down over and over and over again. You're going to feel like I don't belong in physics. I don't belong. I'm not good enough. I am never going to make it here. And my ultimate advice is don't take that and don't redirect that energy. It's going to happen. It's going to happen and it's going to hurt when it happens. No matter how good you are at physics specifically, it's going to happen. You're going to be told no at some point, especially when pursuing research. Don't take that feeling and push it into, I just need to get better. You need to push it into, I just need to start finding more doors to open. I need to open my mind and just try to do as good work as I can. See what interests me, figure out what really interests me and what I can do myself right now to expose myself to physics as a field and as a science. Um, I feel like a lot of people really push, they're like, I need to have perfect grades and make sure that all of my, like, make sure I have a research opportunity before I'm a freshman. And in the long run, that's not going to help you much. In the long run, building skills and building understanding of what the field of physics is and how you can contribute to it at any point in time along your career is going to serve you more. Figuring out what you like is going to serve you more than trying to impress somebody on paper. It's not good. That's there's like expectations, but if you have the desire to be a physicist and to produce in the field of physics and you have a desire to stay committed to it and you can show that, that's going to do you more, and you can vocalize that. You can talk about why it is you like physics as a research field, as a topic to understand. If you can express that and show people with your work um that you're really, this is what you want to do, that's going to do you more than like trying, like melting yourself down trying to be perfect.
I like
It's
that
kind of hard to
answer.
describe.
No, I like that answer a lot. I think especially what you said, like, don't try to be impressive on paper. Like, that is such a prevalent thing that you see in physics. Like, oh my gosh, wow.
I get why it's like that because
Yeah,
when you go to apply to graduate school or internships, all they see is what's on your paper. But
right.
even academia right now is tending away from that because what really indicates whether or not you'll be a good researcher or a good scientist isn't necessarily a single number at a single time or a single this or this or that. It's a lot more complex than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
I
thank you so much. Oh, no,
yeah.
wait, if you have more to say, please go ahead.
I just this is coming from me at
Hmm.
because, and I like to tell people this because I think it really like shoots those preconceptions in the foot, is that I applied to an RU when I was a sophomore and I had a 2.7 GPA at the time and I got in and I built that GPA through time. It's never perfect. It's never been like a great GPA. But I really thought that would stop me and it really hurt, but it didn't. because I did an REU. It wasn't necessarily in the field that I wanted to do at that time. I kept my mind open. I was like, I'm going to pursue this as a research activity. And it served me a lot developing as a scientist and developing as a researcher. And it made me realize, as long as I seek out opportunities and I show that I'm really dedicated, I don't let things like numbers stand in your way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really powerful. I was definitely in a similar boat to that.
Mm,
And I think also talking about the fact that like not all of us, are perfect, most of us are imperfect and people are a lot stranger and a lot closer to you than, you actually think they are.
mm.
Um, and so I mean, honestly, I wish I had like asked you for advice sooner because like that would have been helpful advice for me.
Really? Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that was good stuff. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Amelia.
of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yes.
And again, on behalf of all of GMiP, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope that you get greatness and your PhD.
Thank you.
And I hope that you continue to be able to explore your passion for
Yep.
experimental physics.
I'm excited to be at the point that I am. I'm excited that you guys are carrying on GMIP and making it even stronger. So thank you so much for involving me still.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was very happy that we were able to do this interview. Okay, thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You as well.